So welcome back guys to another video, and Sega recently turned 60 years old, and to help celebrate the anniversary, Sega had a huge announcement. Ironically celebrating the Sega Game Gear with the Game Gear Micro. Now what this little handheld is, it's a plug and play micro small Game Gear with 4 different colors, and each variant has 4 different games built into it, and it's going to be coming out, I believe, in October. And you know, watching this, I was like, man, I really want to talk about the Game Gear because I do really enjoy that handheld. So today I'm going to be talking about 10 Game Gear games you need to play. Mega Man really needs no sort of introduction, but it's one of my favorite series of all time, so I thought it would be very fitting to kick off the countdown with a very faithful installment showcasing levels from Mega Man 4 and 5. While it does lack its own identity, it's still a pretty awesome Game Gear game for owners to get a really close console experience on a handheld device. Gunstar Heroes is one of the most amazing run and gun titles of all time, and now on a more smaller scale. Though the game is a little watered down graphically compared to its Genesis and Mega Drive port, there's no mistaking that Treasure hit a home run for the Game Gear fans, and you will not find a more intense action game on this handheld. The screen is always full of enemies to defeat, the explosion effects look fantastic, and I don't think I've ever seen more impressive boss battles than on this 8-bit system. Those looking for a carbon copy of the Genesis game might be disappointed, but if you judge the game on its own merits, however, it's a clear indication that Gunstar Heroes is one of the most action-packed Game Gear games ever created, and one that really pushed the handheld to its limits. Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble. Strangely, Sonic games are a hit and miss on the Game Gear, but my favorite release is this little title right here. And I think it's because out of the 4 classic titles on the Game Gear, this game was made with the Game Gear in mind. Designed specifically for the handheld, and was able to show off a lot of its strengths and cover up some of its weaknesses. One example of this can be seen on how players don't lose all their rings after getting hurt. This helped reduce the number of cheap deaths that we saw with some of the predecessors, and allowed programmers to develop a high-speed platformer without having to tone down the level design. Triple Trouble is a much larger game than its 8-bit predecessors. The bosses are more interesting, the game features many elements from the Genesis Sonic games, and the stages are loaded with hidden passageways and breakable walls. There's a lot of variety that can be seen within the environments themselves. During the game, the players will explore jungle environments, visit high-tech factories, and even snowboard down mountains. The ability to select Sonic or Tails makes this game have a high replay value and a nice quality of life aspect. Shining Force, the Sword of Hyja, is a tactical RPG with play mechanics that are nearly identical to its predecessor, Shining Force Gaiden, which ironically was only released exclusively in Japan. But this game really consists of a series of battles in which the player and the enemies take turns moving on a grid-based battlefield. While getting in position, players can attack, cast magic, use items at their own discretion, and in between battles, players can buy items, promote characters, resurrect fallen allies, and save their progress. Now, exploration doesn't really play a big part in this game, however, brief cutscenes are used to advance the plot. The game is mostly focused on the battles themselves, and there were 3 unique Shining Force games released on the Game Gear, and the series seemed to be tailor-made for the handheld format. The game doesn't necessarily require state-of-the-art visuals, and the decision to focus on action rather than exploration really makes this an easy and pick-up-to-play game. Number 6 is Royal Stone. It's a shame that Sega never released Royal Stone in America. This turn-based strategy RPG title really represented the peak production values of the Game Gear RPG, with excellent graphics, sound, and the usual mid-90s interface bells and whistles. It's definitely a step up from its 91 predecessor, Crystal Warriors, which itself garners plenty of respect. Be sure to check out the English fan translations online. I'm pretty sure you can get a ROM. This is definitely a game to check out. Next up is Road Rash. I loved this series growing up. Racing the open highway, smacking fellow drivers was just surprisingly satisfying. And while the Game Gear port won't be blasting Soundgarden, Road Rash's handheld port is still pretty impressive today, considering its age and limited hardware. Everything you love about the original is here, with the colorful graphics and in-motion fighting and delightful music. Wonderboy and Dragon's Trap was one of my favorite games of all time, so I definitely wanted to mention the port on the Sega Game Gear. It's pretty much a straightforward port of the Sega Master System version and really has a bright, colorful look and a lot of environments to explore as well, and you just transform into various different animals like a fire-breathing dragon, a sword-wielding lion, or a piranha. There's plenty of action to be had, and this is definitely a game I highly recommend. Dragon Crystal. This is a top-down action RPG and it's based around exploration, combat, and awesome music. Players explore a huge maze of a forest filled with all matters of enemies, and all while being followed by an enormous egg. As you fight and level up, the egg will actually hatch, revealing a dragon. And as he grows, he actually evolves with you and becomes a bigger part of your adventure. This is a pretty big world to explore as well, and lots of enemies to fight. This is definitely a very unique game to check out on the Sega Game Gear. Jiji Shinobi, Sega's iconic ninja, kicks butt on the small screen, and there's lots to enjoy here, including dynamic environments, fast-paced gameplay, and fiendish level design. Perhaps the most impressive, though, is the ability to control other ninjas. Each has their own skill and weapons, and it makes it more of a bigger experience than your standard Shinobi game. And last is going to be GG. While this isn't like my favorite Game Gear game of all time, this isn't that kind of countdown. Alas is still very enjoyable and does what it's intended to do, provide a vertical shooter on the Game Gear. You shoot things, you get points, you power up, you defeat evil. It's a textbook space shooter, and for those looking for anything unique in the genre, anything at all, you'll be sorely disappointed, but Alas is a pretty awesome game. It's a play-by-the-numbers sort of title, plus you get some awesome music. I cannot recommend this enough. Definitely check it out. But anyway guys, those are 10 Game Gear games I cannot recommend enough. Whether you're a Game Gear collector or maybe you've always been curious about the handheld, definitely check these games out, and if you've played them, be sure to leave a comment below. I'd love to talk to you guys about it and interact with the community. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, but also hit the bell so you're notified on all future videos that come out on this channel. Anyway guys, as always, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.